Our panel today is around trends and tech hiring trends for 2020 and moving on to 2021 as well. And obviously it's been quite an eventful year for everyone, not just in the sort of tech hiring. But it'd be really great to get to know who our panelists are. So perhaps, Beth, I can start with you and you can just do a very brief little introduction as to who you are and the company that you work at.
Yep, super quick. My name is Beth. I'm currently People Director at Cloud NC. We're based in London. My role here manages the recruitment and the people team here. My background is 10 years in tech recruitment specifically. Cloud NC is a high-growth startup. We're currently at 70 people, and we operate within the CAD/CAM space, so it's physical product. So we are disrupting the precision engineering industry, which is highly manual, an old school industry. So we built world-first software that automates CNC machines. That technology is in production, and the wider roadmap is to build complete, fully autonomous factories.
Amazing, thank you, Beth. And Belen, yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Belen. I'm based in London and I work at Cloud Reach. We're a cloud services provider, so we have professional services, managed services, software, the whole end-to-end. My role at Cloud Reach right now, actually I'm doing two jobs right now. I'm transitioning to a new job. So I was heading up the talent acquisition team globally. And operations as well. And now I'm just moving to a role that is a business manager role in our partnerships and go-to-market side of things. I've worked in the talent space for a few years, but my background is quite mixed. So I worked in operations, business management, and sales in the past as well. And then yeah, just doing something slightly different. But my heart will always be in people and recruitment. So, yeah.
It's because you weren't busy enough before, wasn't it, Bella? They decided to give you two roles.
Yeah, exactly. But next week it'll be, yeah, I'll move on fully to the new job.
No, that's great. And Peter, yourself.
Yes, hi, I'm Peter. I work for Google, based out of the European headquarters in Dublin, Ireland. I recruit a couple of areas at the moment. So I recruit a lot for analysts in trust and safety, but also recruiting for developer program engineers under our developer relations umbrella as part of Google Cloud. My background as well, I used to recruit with Amazon into their fraud investigations and HR space. And then before that, I was with agency recruitment doing pharmaceuticals.
Excellent. And you're in sunny Dublin, I understand. Is it sunny?
Yeah, the background is really deceiving. Okay, it is not sunny at the moment.
That doesn't surprise me with Dublin, to be honest. It doesn't surprise me. So guys, so obviously we've had a very strange year, and I think if anyone had sort of gone back to January or February when you guys had sort of had your tech hiring strategy planned out and you knew exactly what you were doing, you didn't think that you would be in this position now, and you probably didn't think that you'd be running a panel discussion via your living room on a tech talent conference. So and it'd be good to understand from all of you, just so we can give some context to the listeners as well. How has COVID affected your actual tech hiring? Have you had to look at other projects? What's the effect been? And Bella, it might be worth starting with yourself. Obviously, you've got a brand new role, so obviously a bit of a change. But have you carried on hiring?
Yeah, so we carried on hiring. Well, the volume was slightly lower. I guess most of the companies out there have been affected, but we didn't stop. Our clients, mainly our business is professional services right now. Obviously our clients have reduced their spend, but digital transformation is at the forefront of any business. So we've been quite lucky that we are in that space, let's say. So despite us seeing a bit more like not hiring as rapidly as we were before, right now we are in a peak time as well. So as of 2 weeks ago, the gates have opened again, and we are going through one of our biggest peaks, I would say, in the last year and a half, 2 years. So yeah, I think we also were quite cautious ourselves. Obviously, no one really knew what we're getting ourselves into and how long this would last. So we've been quite careful with our cost and spend. But yeah, we're seeing good things in terms of digital transformation and the market we're in. And then we're just going through a peak right now, which we're quite lucky to go through that. So
yeah, no, and that's brilliant. I mean, it's so different for other organisations. Beth, yourself, you've carried on hiring? Has it slowed down?
So I think we're slightly unique because we're a full stack business. So that means we have a factory, and our software engineers all moved remote, of course, with COVID. But for reasons of work in manufacturing, the factory still actually continued to operate. So a lot of the HR people and nuance and priorities over the summer had been making sure that our factory, first and foremost, were as safe as possible during the summer, and that was my priority as people director. So we actually paused tech recruitment for about 3 months. Back on the roadmap, similar to Cloud Reach. So we now have about 8 vacancies in tech live at the moment. So we're back to normal. But what I would say is it's really evolving, which I'm sure we'll talk about in terms of trends, but the employer value entire proposition is going through an evolution at the moment. And it's about communicating that journey to candidates that we're talking to right the way through to first reach and through to process. I will also tell them that the adjustments and the changes that we made from remote interviewing right the way through to remote onboarding, and ensuring that that experience is still as optimal, or if not better than before.
Yeah, so you've really had to ramp up that communication and everything else as well, which actually leads us on to a question that we've had. So just for our audience, if you do see a question that you like, you can actually like it like you would on Facebook, for example, so it'll bring it to the top of the session. So one of the questions that we've had is, we'd love to know what type of comms you have had with your tech teams to reassure and keep retention, other than just opening up the communications and just having those different touch points. Is there anything else that you guys have done on top of that? You're all silent. Feel free, Beth.
Yep, I'll jump in. So yeah, my advice to anyone is 2020 is all about your internal employees first and foremost, before you even start really beginning on focusing on your strategy for 2021. I'd say use Q4 as much as possible to gather data. So first and foremost for us is to really focus on what our tech teams need, and prioritize that around their identities and their the sentiment of the tech team, what they need. So that's been the priority right from the offset, and we continued that. And I think in this climate, it's been more important than ever to make sure that you are catering for everyone, and really focusing on that minority attention, and not just making change management decisions through a majority opinion. And that's been a real key focus from the people aspect to support our tech teams. We've been capturing, again, what gets measured gets done. Right from the beginning, we've been measuring consistently through platforms like Peakon, and through small groups, and of course we're small enough to have one-to-ones and feedback often to really iterate very fast to improve our remote working setup, tooling and technologies, and benefit proposals going forward. So we've had everything obviously couriered straight away, and being a startup, agile and a changing nature of how we operate is something that we're quite used to. It's actually one of our values, operating through the unknown and being comfortable with that. So I would say all of our devs have been fine with that, but I think it's really important just to make sure that you are continuing with your BAU and your roadmap around progression, around making sure you're doing reviews, one-to-ones are still really consistent, and well-being, I think, has been a really important investment. If you look at globally through even the Peakon surveys, around making sure that you are really understanding people's needs with childcare, allowing for distractions, allowing for flexible hours and operating, and really making sure tech teams and your leaders are well trained and well versed to iterate around things such as inclusion with remote working as well. So I think that's been really important, and I think that applies to any team, not specifically just tech. And I think there are certain things around then, retention on a bigger scale, which I'm sure we'll talk about with the remote or not, or hybrid strategies and philosophies that businesses may take, is also going to pose some interesting challenges and changes around longer term retention as well.
And I suppose and from my perspective, I think what COVID has highlighted is probably what everyone should be doing well anyway. It's just highlighted and really highlighted who's not doing it well and actually where you need to pick that up. Peter, I'd like to sort of direct that question to you a little bit. So obviously, and I know when we've spoken, but it's also quite well known that Google have a lot of perks as part of your as part of working there. Obviously, when you're not in the office and you don't have, I think your favourite perk, if you don't mind me saying, was all the free food you used to get in the canteens. You used to have just loads of things going on. So obviously, you're not in the canteen, you don't have those options. So how are you able to replicate that for not just your tech teams, but sort of generally speaking as well?
Yeah, no, and yeah, you're right. I don't mind that either. Like I'm sat here with rice cakes on my side. I do not stop eating. Funnily enough, Beth touched on it really well in terms of operating in the unknown. And one of the big Google parts to it is thriving in ambiguity, which is, the same thing, just worded slightly differently. And it really is just looking at things from if it's an individual approach, but also trying to look at it holistically across. So, Google's well documented, as you said, in terms of benefits that we can offer just by the size and success of the company. But then it's things like being able to give carers leave. So we're operating in these unknown times, and with things for, I can give examples of being based in Ireland anyway, where childcare services were closed and obviously schools were closed and such, and it completely changed the landscape of what we can do in terms of being able to be full-time workers in some aspects. So it was really just being able to take that look at it and go, okay, so there's going to be people in different situations, and how can we help each person in the situation? Now, obviously, with that being said, you can't lean in and help every single person in each individual, but you can try to. There's the idea of trying to help as many people within the smaller subsets as possible. So really leaning into that and going through and adding on those different benefits from the carers leave. We did little things where we have culture teams. So we received yoga mats, for example. Mental health is a huge thing, and I'm so glad Becky brought it up, because it really, really is something that needs to be so top of mind, especially with people being locked in their homes essentially and dealing with different aspects of life throwing at them. We really put that to a hot point, and just leaning in and saying, look, take your time. If you need to take a half day, take a half day. If it's really not something you can do now, just step away for a while and do what you need to do to look after yourself. Realistically, you can't be at your best in work unless you're at your best. And so a lot of the discussions that we have is really hot on that topic of mental health. And then again, I sit here I'm very aware of a privileged position being in Google, being able to say we can lean in and, have the tech sent over to us and have all these new nuanced systems that we have being able to be installed and such. But I think really it's been about looking at the individuals and changing the landscape of what we are, and saying, if you feel more comfortable being at home at the moment in another country, then let's see how we can facilitate that so you can be close to your family, rather than being in a country where maybe you're not there and you're worried about what's going on, and that just doesn't help when we're thinking mental health. So having that flexibility around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously mental health at the moment is, and this isn't just within sort of tech teams, but just sort of generally in the workplace, is such an important part of everything that we're going through. So moving on to another question. So we're going to try and get through as many questions as we can. Belen, I'm going to pop this one to you. So if you had a magic wand, what single change would you make within your organisation's culture to make you more attractive, to hire more diverse talent? And I know you can possibly give us a little bit of information around the other projects that you run as well outside of your office.
Yeah, that's a great question and a difficult question to to answer as well. But I think in order for us to, and for any organization really, to attract more diverse talent, the first thing is inclusion. So diversity and inclusion go hand in hand, and if you don't have an inclusive culture, it doesn't matter what you do, you will end up losing that talent. And diversity and inclusion need to go hand in hand. I'm quite lucky here at Cloudreach that I believe we're doing things quite well in terms of being an inclusive place to work. Obviously, we don't get everything right, and we have improved a lot over the last couple of years. I think especially during the pandemic as well. A lot of us have come together even more, and we've seen that reflected in the way as to how people feel. Our engagement score actually has gone up during the pandemic up until now. So I think it's a good reflection of that. But in terms of Magic Wand, we have, for example, diversity and inclusion committee. And one of the struggles that I guess every company has is actually doing things, right? You can talk about things a lot. You can say, yeah, we need to do this. We need to partner with organizations. We need to focus a bit more on this area. But actually, actually doing it, it's what is probably missing out there. I believe we can do many more things. And one of the things that we could be doing is, for example, partnering up with other organizations out there as a matter of like CSR type work, as a matter of just partner with some organizations without the aim of just hiring diverse talent, right? With the aim of like actually, helping and do something for the community. And I believe when those things happen, then you get a lot in return, like your EVP, your employee value proposition. People will apply more. You will have a better pipeline of talent as well. So yeah, I guess if I had a magic wand, then that ecosystem of like partnerships with communities, organizations is what perhaps I would do. And personally as well, as you know, Natasha, it's I'm doing a lot of stuff on diversity and inclusion in my free time. And one of the things, actually, I'm launching a website tomorrow about women in tech, something that I'm very passionate about. It's called Wagora, and it's basically a community for women in tech, for just to make sure, just to level the playing field, and to upskill women in leadership and technical skills. And I do that in my free time, but I believe that's not going to happen, and that won't change unless companies actually do what they're meant to do, or do what they're saying they want to do. So I think there is more an action-driven approach is what I believe it's needed.
Yes, I think you guys, and having spoken to you, you do quite a lot of really good things, but sometimes it's actually being able to show that to candidates and actually take that action. Does anyone partner with any sort of tech talent, women in tech sort of charters or anything along those lines, and able to get your name out there? Obviously, it doesn't have to just be women in tech, but anything along those lines.
Yeah, here at Cloudreach, we partner with Generation. So Generation, they're a charity. They are in the US, they're in the UK, Ireland, and other countries as well. And they basically help young people to get into tech, other areas as well, but they remove financial barriers. So for example, they have a 3-month bootcamp, cloud computing, and it's free for the learners, a bootcamp that otherwise would cost you like 10 grand. So obviously there are not that many spots, so it's very competitive. But yeah, we partner with them. We do a lot of CSR work. We're acting as mentors. There is about 30 people in the company acting as mentors for some of those students. From the back of that, we actually hired a couple of people into Cloudreach. We've done in the talent team, we've done mock interviews. We've done sessions with them around interviewing. So yeah, we've been partnering a lot with them. There is another organization called Color in Tech that we've done some stuff with them as well. Very good organization as well. And then some community meetups. There's a community meetup called Tech Women London, which that's the meetup I run as well. There is another meetup called Tech Ladies London as well. I probably Women Who Code, and yeah, there's a few more out there. I think it's great. There are many things out there. I think back to my previous point, it is difficult to find an organization that can help you drive things, perhaps, and that aligns with what your needs are. Because ultimately, you're not going to go to those organizations with the aim of like, right, I just want to hire 2 people right now, and that's it, right? I just want to tick the box. I'm hoping no one is doing that, really, but that's not the point. But it's difficult to find a partner that can help you with your long-term goals, and especially to get your organization involved as well, which I think is very important. Back to the inclusion point, and back to making people feel that the company is not only talking about it and putting a statement there on LinkedIn. Is actually we're doing something about it. We're collaborating with these organizations. We're giving our time. We don't expect that much in exchange. We just want to collaborate and help out as well. And I think that's when magic happens, and it has happened for us as well. So.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Beth, did you say that you were just about to start?
I mean, all I was going to add to this, thank you for that. I agree with everything you've just said. I think for me, I think it's really important now in 2020 to move the dialogue on from just women in tech from a diversity perspective. I think this is really, really important for me. My only perspective on diversity recruitment is really twofold. Please make sure, if anything, with remote and tapping up into much bigger pools than perhaps you may have locally done before, is really recognizing that you're building teams now for sustainable growth that reflects diversity within your talent and your HR team. We have my whole team together, and they're happy for me to share this as a mix of LGBTQ+, Black, mixed race, women and men, and those that have learning and support needs. It's really important that what you then can build from that has to be reflected within your own talent and HR team. And secondly, in my experience over the years, I've seen talent and the people or HR team operate quite separately. And those roadmaps, I don't think really can work separately from one another. So I think it's really important to build those roadmaps together, because you need inclusion in a great people team, as well as the recruitment, because the whole point of your metric of great recruitment is conversion into tenure, and hopefully be really successful promoted hires through the business. So from the diversity perspective, I think it's really key to build a sustainable strategy roadmap and have a financial budget assigned to that is actually allocated then within your different work streams, whether it's recruitment or onboarding or whatever. And I think that's a key area. And I think, as Ben has said, I think you've got to do what's right for your business and understand your business. We have our own challenges around diversity. We're a manufacturer that has an additional challenge to just having a lack of certain talent pools within the tech market. So one of the things, if I had a magic wand, or use my magic pen, would be to really focus on building our marketing collateral, because when people are in process, the conversion is really high, and they're really, really amazed at how cool and genuinely inclusive and progressive our whole culture is. But you've got to really get that translated through your marketing. And of course, being a startup, it's not an area, I'll be very transparent, that we've fully invested in at the moment, but we've got to continue to do that as part of our EVP for Series B. And hopefully we will tap into much larger pools. But it's a long journey, and the one thing I'd say about our team is that we don't stop working on this every day. So keep at it. You have to have really, really, really strong commitment to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, diversity isn't just about the people in HR teams or people in recruitment. It's about the company itself. And I think as soon as everyone gets their head around that, I think that's the best thing. So we're going to crack on with a couple of the questions. I'm actually going to combine a couple of questions here. So following on from what you just said, Beth, and about the messaging and everything else, and even though that's around diversity, we've got a couple of attendees who would like to know how their your hiring and attraction messaging has changed over the last 6 months, what might be here to stay, and the second part of the question is, has your messaging changed because people are actually moving out of London? So I know, aside from Peter being in Dublin, a lot of people's sort of talent would generally be in London, but for someone that's got a Bristol-based office, is that doable? So how has your sort of attraction messaging changed? Peter, I don't know if you're able to perhaps kick us off with these ones and what you're seeing with people where they're moving to.
Yeah, I actually saw this question earlier and have been thinking about it as well to answer it. It's a tough, like, it's quite a tough one because I suppose Google, from my side, looking at it anyway, I don't think we've really changed the messaging of what we put across, to be honest, because we really don't know what's coming down the line, in the sense of, when I saw the question, there's things around like flexible working and such. Google's policy has been, I think, well publicized. Every time Sundar writes an email, it seems to manage to get out into the press sector. So in terms of messaging, like, we don't know where we're going to be going. So I think the way we've looked at it is that we don't know if we're going to be offering long-term flexible working, be that 1-2 days in the office, or if we really want to bring people back into be either 4 days or even full-time into the office. So we can't really change the messaging in that sense to say anything different to what's already there in that sense. Yeah.
No, that's fine. I mean, you guys, Google, I know, announced quite early on that actually no one was going to be going back to the office before July next year. And this was at a time where I think people were still looking to go back in September and everything else. So no, that's totally understandable.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I think that for me was, and for a lot of people, was probably one of the best things they did, because everyone's navigating such an uncertain moment. And in times of uncertainty, the best thing you can do is give people something that they know is a concrete element. And with like, you see it with other companies where they're allowing part-time working from home, or they're saying that companies they were moving full-time working from home, or you could be based anywhere in the country and it was going to be perfectly fine. Google just aren't too sure around that, because Google's best work they do is when people are in the office and they're talking, they're able to exchange that idea. So the way they came out was like, you know what, we don't really know what the future's going to hold, but we're going to say you don't have to come back until July 2021. Now that may change and be pushed out. It certainly won't be brought forward, but it just gave everyone that thing of going, okay, I know this is going to be my setup for probably, another year. And so I can work around that. And I think if I could look at messaging, it wasn't really an external messaging, it was an internal messaging. But I think that really just sort of set a precedent for this is what we're going to do. And it did help.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of sort of relocation and obviously the remote hiring and what that then has an impact on in terms of finding your tech talent. Beth and Belen, you guys are London based, and I think your offices are London based as well. Are you going to allow remote workers moving forward? Are you going to be looking at people perhaps in the Northwest, in Scotland, in Wales? Do they need to come into the office moving forward? Has it changed your strategy? Beth, perhaps I can start with you.
Yes, is the answer, probably. So I'm just looking at my data, some key highlights from the voice of our employees. And again, what I would stress is if you are going to survey tech teams, do it more than once because attitudes can change from the beginning to as we go on. And I have noticed that a few have gravitated, and you'll be surprised who those ones may be, into the office over time. We allow the space to be open for those that absolutely need to come in, but of course we're still very safe, and everything, just so everyone's clear, is very safe for people. But for us, we found that choice between both has been the highest score from our tech teams. So it's either choice of both or fully remote, being the top two highest responses. The top reason for that is, of course, just choice in itself, improvement of physical health and time, and the location are the third top reasons. How often that our devs would want to go is 1 to 2 times a week. I know in the hire.com report, the average across the EMEA and US has been 2 to 3 days a week, but ours is slightly less. We've had high response on social and adaptation around what we're going to do on the social and the collaboration side long term. And I'm just thinking of the other bits and bobs in my day. I mean, the survey is massive, but I'm trying to make this smaller.
No, absolutely. But I think for individuals and for other employers as well, I mean, do you think this is indicating that actually we need to have that shift? It's not going to go back to 9 to 5 in the office, and not that the tech world was that sort of structured before.
So I think there's like a twofold approach you can take to this. We've taken the both. We've seen from talking to others, tech companies and startups, that they're just at the moment doing what's right for them. We've got the twofold thing is that our talent bar is very, very high. So we also need to be looking at market trends. And I appreciate Google and Facebook and the bigger companies are probably going to lead quite often the way that will cascade down on what decisions are made there from those perspectives, as they attract a big pool of talent in the tech markets. So we're looking at both sides of the coin right now, but absolutely, I think based on the engagement scores and Peakon of tech teams as well, it's clearly gone up. So to take that away from people, which is a great benefit for engagement and productivity, I think would be unusual. I think the hybrid model is going to probably be where lots of companies settle with high flexibility, and choice is going to be the key thing for autonomy and attracting Gen Z as well as those from different backgrounds as well. So I think we've always had relatively strong choice as a startup and things like that. But we do personally as Cloud & C having a factory, that is an additional element because there is a requirement. We're not a pure play SaaS company. We have that requirement where you do need to be looking at the, deep diving into a certain feature on a machine and working with the SMEs in the factory on a particular feature, for example. So that element will still remain, and it's the reason we attract people in the first place. So I assume that wouldn't deter the right sort of candidate long term to the company.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for organisations that perhaps outside of London, where perhaps the talent isn't quite as much normally, and also on diversity and social mobility, you haven't got those restrictions of having to go to London, live in London. It's for us that do live over here and even in Dublin as well, it's bloody expensive, isn't it? So actually having all of those options, tech returners, all of those things, hopefully should improve the reach that people can have as well. So we are sort of nearly towards the end of the time, and it literally does fly by on this panel. So looking ahead to 2021, we've had a question that came through. They've got to deliver a hiring strategy for 50 new tech hires in 2021. What do you think the focus should be for this individual, and what should they look out for? Belen, perhaps you can answer this one for us.
Yeah, well, I guess there are lots of missing detail that I don't have. But to me, well, first of all, knowing the market, understanding the market, mapping the market, and reverse engineering everything that you need to do, like when do you need these hires, when by, and then just reverse engineering all of that based on the market and the strategies, and then align everything else to that and how you reverse engineer that. I don't know what Beth and Peter think.
No, absolutely. That all makes sense. In terms of the sort of trends and other bits and pieces, and obviously that sort of market mapping, there's lots of tools out there. Horsefly, one of our event partners, have a great sort of data tool that they can show you where the people that you want are, and perhaps from that you'll actually be able to make some informed decisions as well. Perhaps there's another question that's come through. What worries you the most about 2021? And it's a very, let's turn it around. So what are you looking forward to for 2021? So let's reverse that one. And you know, feel free to push out there what needs to be considered. But I'd love this to be kind of the final question from all of you. So Peter, what are you looking forward to for 2021? In a sort of tech hiring environment?
I'm actually looking forward to how everything that's happened and I suppose is still ahead of us. I know trying to move into the more positive light of it, but actually to see the impact that that's going to have from tech hiring and the tech side. You know, there's just looking at cloud as an area. I think as an industry, and this is my opinion on it, it's probably come on sort of 10 plus years from where it would have been if none of this had happened because of all the remote working space. And I think it's so exciting going into next year just to think of like where the technology is going to be progressing into, the new skills that are going to be needed. So I suppose into that area of kind of answers partly the question from Belen as well, which was like the skill side. So the new skills that are going to be coming through in the new models of what we're going to be able to learn and areas that we're going to have to teach people and pivot across to in the experiences. I just think that the cloud space is one that's really going to be interesting to watch, and into sort of that AI and machine learning as well. I think these are going to be some really, I'm trying to think of another word than cool, but really cool areas basically just to watch for the next 12, 24 months.
Yeah, excellent. That sounds good. And Beth, yourself, what are you sort of looking forward to in 2021?
Well, I'm all about technology, same as you, in terms of the progression of you know, what tools come out to support recruitment and talent, as well as the engineers themselves. I think, and of course, my big one is, where does this come in terms of diversifying even more and tapping into people who may not have had that accessibility from you know, access or to physical location. I just think it's going to be really interesting to see you know, what comes of that in terms of the future work generally globally, that supports, you know, socioeconomic situations as well as, you know, broader beyond you know, the women dialogue, even though of course I'm a woman in tech, I call myself as well, but I really like to see the broader changes around that from a dialogue and an inclusion perspective.
Yeah, excellent. Are there any tools or technologies that you've got your eye on to help you with it from the talent perspective and the people perspective that you think are sort of coming out that might be able to help you, or you'd recommend to any listeners? That was for you, Beth. Yeah, sorry. It's only because you mentioned it.
Oh, wow. God, I'm thinking of all the things we're thinking about. So there's a lot of things around remote interviewing and pairing and automating a lot of those experiences and setting those things up. What we're certainly looking at, more and more integrations that support the current ATS as well, around much more supporting remote and automation and faster click-throughs in terms of time to hire. There are lots and lots of tools already around diversity and training around that. Of course, it's all going to be a lot more online now, that we're certainly looking into too. And for me, the big area of investment for me personally is going to be a lot more on videos, and that's just not just video training, but video marketing and video advertising is going to be, I think, a key area that we're going to need to look at long term. I know it's not necessarily a tool, but it's an area of investment that we're certainly looking at changing our medium as well.
No, absolutely. With that, you've got all the recruitment marketing and all the analytics and everything else that goes with that as well. So yeah, looking forward to seeing some videos from you, Beth. And Belen, yourself, what about 2021? What are you, obviously you're going into a slightly different role, so you might not be quite as sort of people oriented, but what's your thoughts on 2021?
Yeah, I think for me, I look forward to seeing given the impact that COVID has had and continues to have, which businesses adapt, thrive, or fail, and why those things have happened. So in a year's time, I would look forward to, hopefully, if COVID has gone away by then, just looking back as to what businesses that have thrived or failed, what they've done, and the differences. So yeah, I look forward to seeing if there are any common like traits, because right now I think everyone is trying to thrive and to do things well, but there are businesses that, perhaps it's not their fault, is the industry that they're in. But if you see similar businesses in same industries and things that they've done and not done, then I think it'll be a good learning opportunity for everyone to see some success stories. And yeah,
it'll be the innovation that comes out now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we've already seen it in some areas as well, but I think it's just going to continue. And Belen, are there any tools or technologies that you particularly use that you would recommend, or any that you've got your eye out on that aid that tech hiring process?
Yeah, so I guess for right now in the ATS and our systems internal, we're doing a lot of automation from our side to try and remove any sort of internal barriers to just make sure that everything goes smoothly. But we do a lot of whiteboarding scenarios, and we used to do loads of them face to face. So moving that online, we've been able to find a dashboard that it's kind of free to use, then other ones that are paid. So we're looking into that. I think the dashboard thing is just to trying to the whiteboard stuff, just to see if that works. That would be that's one that we're looking into. And then some collaboration tools, maybe not just specifically for candidates, but for hiring teams that are in different locations to be able to come to decisions quicker. But the whiteboarding thing is one to watch. And also I know there are lots of video conferencing and video calls as well, but and this is just a thought, and maybe there's some people that don't agree with it, but before we would tend to do a lot of video calls for interviewing, but now it's also, in terms of diversity, the same as blind CVs, blind interviews and all of that. So we're trying to move away from that. There were lots of hiring managers that wanted to make a video interview mandatory, or just to see how they express themselves, and with everything that is going on and everything also moving virtually, where everything has to be done remotely, it's kind of also has made us more self-aware that we need to move away from just doing video interviews, because that can be quite biased from our side. So I think that's something important in terms of technology that maybe we won't be using as much for certain interviews.
Interesting. So you're missing out on that sort of human touch. I know I am in any case, not just on interviewing, but excellent, guys. We are bang on time. So that was really insightful. I really enjoyed having that discussion. So and we had lots of questions as well. So thank you very much for coming online and sharing your insights and your thoughts as well. I've just popped up a poll for all of our attendees. So if you can just complete that for us, that would be great. But Belen, Beth and Peter, thank you very much. If anyone wants to reach out to you on LinkedIn, are you happy for them to just say hello and perhaps pick your brains? You're all on mute, so you're all nodding nicely there. Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone. It was great. Thank you.